I can't even look at the accounting. I suck at math. Maybe you do suck at math, and maybe you can't do the accounting. But here's the beautiful thing. That option is just not your solution. There's many options. I think it was Einstein who said, if we measure a fish by its ability to swim and a monkey by its ability to climb, they'll both do well. But if we measure a monkey's ability to breathe underwater and a fish to climb trees, they're not going to do so well.
It's the Studio Sherpas podcast, and this is episode 125. Welcome to this episode of the Studio Sherpas podcast, where our number one goal is to help you grow your video business. Yeah. I've been working on that intro for quite some time. Hey, if you don't know me, I'm Ryan Coral, and I'm so happy to meet you. Coral, did I pronounce that correctly? It's like Coral, but spelled differently, K-O-R-A-L. So I have a video business just like you, maybe, hopefully, because this is who we made this show for. People that are freelancers that do video stuff and try to make a living at it. And my whole goal, my hope, my dream for you is to be able to do this for a long time. And the only way to do that is to really focus on the business side of your business, not just on the cool shooting and editing that you can do. So I'm glad that you're here. Hope you get some inspiration. And maybe if you saw the Instagram video I did recently, you might have seen me spit as I was trying to talk. It was glorious. I don't know if it actually showed up, but I felt like there was a bubble that like popped out of my mouth, like a spit bubble. It's super gross. Anyway, I'm glad you're here, and I think you're going to get some value out of this episode. I was looking forward to interviewing Mike for a long time, and we finally landed him, and it's going to be great. But before we get there, let me talk about this. This show, I love doing this show, and I sort of built Studio Sherpas as a passion project, side hustle thing that I wanted to do to be able to help video business owners. And I've enjoyed this journey. Why does every time I start going down this road, it sounds like I'm retiring? I'm not retiring, but I just want to reiterate my happiness to be able to do this show. If you're new here, I'm a little bit weird, and it's fine. It's cool. It's totally okay. But if you don't like that, then I think there might be another podcast out there that you might enjoy, where the host maybe isn't so weird. But right now, you're stuck with me, and I'm glad about that. I will just address this. I had the pleasure of having a one-on-one coaching call with one of our students at Studio Sherpas today, and he was just asking me, he's like, so, how's business? And I'm like, dude, it's slower than I want it to be, and actually it's a challenge. It is a challenge. Boy, it is so challenging to juggle Studio Sherpas and Tell Studios. So Tell Studios is the brand that we run our video company under, and so we work with clients. We have all sorts of different kinds of clients, and create mostly brand type stories for them. And so that's my passion. I have employees that work for me, and I've had this business for like 15 years. And Studio Sherpas was born like 3 years ago. And it really is just one of my greatest passions in life is to be able to help other people in business. I love business. I love being creative. I love that sort of mashup of those two. And little did I know, starting this a long time ago, I shouldn't say little did I know. I knew that starting a new business was going to be time consuming. But it is a struggle kind of bouncing back and forth between these two things. So I just want to let you in on my world a little bit, just so you know I'm struggling with you. And maybe you're not struggling, and if you're not, then shoot me some messages. I want to know like what you're doing to not struggle. That would be helpful to know. So, but here on this show, you're going to hear some struggles. You're going to hear successes and sort of everything in between. Not just from me, but from our guests, from students that are inside of the Studio Sherpas online course. So we offer training courses where people can learn sort of the business side of things. If you didn't go to college or anything, or ever take business classes, we offer stuff that really is for you. So you can find out more about all that stuff at studiosherpas.com. I guess we'll sponsor this episode. That's our official sponsor for episode 125. Anyway, okay, here's a question for you. Do you ever get stressed out when it comes tax time? Or have you ever struggled with like budgeting enough to pay your taxes. I remember, oh my gosh, years ago, and for years on end, it seemed like this was the biggest stressor in my life was taxes. What about retirement? Have you ever thought about retiring one day, or just like, weekly or monthly bookkeeping, staying on top of your books? If you're anything like me, anything related to finances inside of this small business that I run gives me a headache. It gives me a stomach ache. It gives me heartburn. It makes me sad and depressed. Even when we're doing well financially, I don't want to think about this stuff. But the difference between being a quote unquote freelancer versus a business owner is that you have to care. You have to think about that stuff. You have to make a plan for your future, for the future of your family. If you have employees, you have to do this for your employees and for your business. In today's episode, my new friend, Mike Michalowicz, who is author of a book called Profit First, shares that 83% of small business owners are in survival mode. That's a lot of percentages. So let's just say that you are not alone. I am with you, and this community is with you. And what's in today's episode for you? Today, Mike shares with us advice for someone that is in trouble financially and needs help. He also talks about the tipping point for him, the moment that changed his perspective and really changed his life. This story also made me tear up as he was sharing it. Dang it. And there's definitely no video evidence of this happening on our YouTube channel. And then Mike also talks about the difference between profit and profitability. So you are going to walk away from this episode with some real action steps on how to get started or how to go further in creating a new kind of legacy for you, for your family, your business. And according to Mike, it starts with profit. So that's all I've got. Let's jump into this episode, number 125 with Mike Michalowicz. Hey guys, welcome to the Studio Sherpas podcast. My name is Ryan Coral, and today my guest is Mike Michalowicz. Mike is an author, he's a speaker. He has written a book that has quickly become one of my favorites, and I was just sharing with him that you guys, I actually got people from our tribe have gotten mad at me because this was weeks ago that you were going to be on the show. And I had introduced, I'm like, hey, and next week or in 2 weeks or something, Mike's going to be on the show. And then you weren't, and people were like emailing me, and they're like, "Where's Mike? Where's this episode? We've already read Profit First. We're super looking forward to it." We had to postpone it just because something came up in the calendar or whatever, and I had to reach out to those. I said, "He's coming. Just hold your horses." And coming soon. So Mike, super glad you're here. And I know there are a few people that were like, finally.
You're right. Well, I'm happy, Ryan. I'm happy to be here and thrilled that we're doing this. Sorry to be a little late.
Oh my gosh. No apologies necessary. I am really, really grateful that you're here. So I want to talk start from the simplest building block here. The book that I read, I know you've written, how many books have you written at this point?
I've written 5.
Okay. Yeah. So just 5. Just kidding.
Just
5 to my 0.
That's funny.
So Profit First is the book that really opened my eyes to this. There were so many things inside of that book that I resonated with and said, oh man, this is good. As we look to one of the things I want to be able to do is give out bonuses and stuff to my employees. And I don't have I haven't had a great format for how to do that until listening to your book. But let's just talk to the person that doesn't really understand, maybe they're doing video and they're like, oh yeah, I've got people that are paying me. And so I feel like, this is a business, but what does it mean to be profitable?
Well, profitable, there's 2 definitions. There's an accounting definition and there's the entrepreneurial definition. The accounting definition is, it's an equation used on income statements, and they call it the bottom line. It's the final number that's presented on there, which conceptually is sales minus expenses, and the remainder is profit. The problem is you can be accounting profitable but not have cash. By the way, Enron was very profitable until its final day when they closed and the 100,000 employees were let go. So you can manipulate the numbers in an accounting system to show profitability or not. And there's good reasons to do that in either way. But when it comes to our definition, the entrepreneur's definition of profit, it is cold, hard cash available for the withdrawal and for the distribution to the shareholder, the owners of the business. So that's what I talk about. My commitment to entrepreneurs is at the end of every quarter, at the end of every year, that there's money available specifically for you to reward yourself, not to put back in the business, specifically for you to reward yourself for being a business owner. That's how I define profit.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's super good. I would say, for the first bunch of years, I've been doing this for 15 years, running a video company. And for the first bunch of years, I felt like we were making money, right? So I just thought, I'm like, okay, we're profitable. And then when I'm meeting with my accountant and they're like, no, you lost money. I'm like, how did I lose money? I have some money in my bank account, and it doesn't make sense.
Mm.
From your perspective, I feel like you've heard so many stories of people in that same sort of space where, there's you get to the end of the year and it's like, okay, like we made money. No, you didn't. What does that actually mean? And when you're looking at building a business that's sustainable and something that lasts, is running a business like that sustainable? Because I would say for me, I just kind of felt like, we're charging clients, we're making money. We don't have money to buy equipment this month, but we will next month because we're getting a check. And that's just kind of, how things went for a long time.
Yeah. So there is a great difference between what we make and what we take. And sadly, most entrepreneurs, including myself for decades, did not distinguish the two. Make is sales or revenue. Take is profitability or distributions. And they are significantly different. I first need to address the fact that we need sales. Like, you can't be profitable without them. Sales must come first. And that means we have to have some source of inbound cash flow. That's what a sale is. A sale is a contract between, for example, me and you. I say to you, Ryan, I'll provide XYZ services or products. In exchange, you say, Mike, if you do that successfully and to the agreement, I will reward you in cash. Then we talk about the terms. Maybe you give me some in advance, some in the middle, some at the end, all in advance. And I promise how long it'll take me to deliver the goods or services I promise. That's the sales component. Sales is a source of inbound cash flow. But then the execution of our services and the management of the business determine how much of that money remains in the business versus flows back out. And for most businesses, every penny flows out. And there's a behavioral reason behind it called Parkinson's law. But actually everything I wrote about in Profit First is based upon behavioral psychology. There's a reason that almost uncannily, as our revenue grows, that our expenses almost perfectly seem to run parallel with it. And so we get caught in this trap. It's called the cash flow trap of you need to sell more because I'm spending so much money. I need to sell to finally afford those expenses and give myself a little cushion. But the second you sell more expenses come. And then you're like, I need to sell even more, clearly. And so there's this constant quest for selling more. Profits never addressed. Ultimately, it will collapse. The day you can't sustain that growth rate, the day sales dip, the day we have a localized or global recession, every business that has not figured out the profit formula, doesn't figure out how to bring in sustainable and permanent profits to their business, is screwed. We're in real trouble. So it isn't sustainable. But sadly, we think it is because we can carry on for years. As long as you keep the sales boosting up, you'll have enough cash flow to cover the lagging expenses. And we'll play cash flow games like saying, well, don't pay this bill yet, or send the check to the vendor, but don't sign the check. That way it'll look like we made an effort when we're really not making any effort whatsoever. And we'll play these games. We'll borrow from credit cards. A classic thing is like, I need to make a loan for my business to cover a purchase of some equipment or to hire some people. That's what we say. But what we actually do is we're using it to pay ourselves. We take a loan. Then, because we couldn't afford paying those people, we pay them some of the money, but that's freed up some of the sales that are coming in, so some extra money, and we pay ourselves. So that loan, it's just gone through a few steps, but we're taking on loans to pay our own salary. That's a very unhealthy business. So the focus on make money over take profit money is a real problem, and it's not ultimately sustainable in the long haul.
Yeah. Yeah, that's it actually, it pains me to hear you sharing even this, because I'm like, oh my gosh, like I remember especially the early days, and not that, we have a line of credit for our business and we use credit cards. And so we're not in a perfect financial, stable environment where if the recession comes, it's going to be like, oh my gosh, why didn't we pay this debt down sooner?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
But it just, I get heart palpitations thinking about like the early years and how, I had no idea how to run a business. And so it was like, stealing from Paul to pay or whatever.
Peter Paul. Yeah, no, I totally get it. And thanks for your candor, first of all, Ryan. It's the reality for most businesses, regardless if it's a new business or an old business. So a lot of business owners have been in business for a decade or two, but they haven't learned the process of mastering profit. And I will tell you, I emphatically believe it is not our fault. It's our problem. It's not our fault.
Yeah.
Meaning the system we use to address profitability that we've all been told is based upon this thing called the GAAP formula, generally accepted accounting principles. Basically, the vernacular we use, we say profit is the bottom line or year end. That terminology points to the problem. When something comes last, it means it's insignificant. So when profit's the bottom line, it's like saying, we also use the word bottom when we talk about bottom feeders. It's actually a very negative connotation. Well, it's the bottom. So bottom means bottom barrel, right? It's the last of what's left over. Who cares? Or when we say it's the year end, we're saying it's the final consideration. When something comes last, it's insignificant. Like if you had a health scare, you wouldn't come out of the doctor's office saying, I got to start putting my health last. No, you say, I got to put my health first. Or if your family's important to you, you'll say, I have to put my family first. I have to put my health first, my family first. Whatever's important comes first. What's insignificant and can live by the manana syndrome comes last. So we've been told profit comes last. And in execution, most of us wait till the end of the quarter. Actually, more of us wait till the end of the year, April 15th. And we look at the income statement our accountant created for us. And I'm like, no money left over again, no profit, maybe next year. And we literally delay the consideration of profit for 365 days. We need to change the formula of putting profit last to putting profit first. That's why I call the book Profit First. But we got to put our profit first so that it becomes habitual. Mm-hmm. Profit's not an event or an eventuality. Profit is a habit. We're going to bake it into every transaction. So profit does not wait until the end of the year. It doesn't even wait till the end of the day. Every transaction, a portion of that money is designated toward profit, so it becomes a habit.
I love it. So good. Really, I know people are listening and they're like, oh man, this is really challenging how I approach money and the things that we do with it. I imagine that for you, there was some kind of a significant event that led you to profit first. Can you share maybe that moment or what that
Sure. Is? So this is going to become like the Oprah moment. I'm going to start to cry now. So thanks, Oprah or Barbara Walters. So I write about it in my book. I've been very public about it, and it's still an emotional trigger. And I'm convinced that my final breath on this planet will be remembering this event. So here's the backstory. Grew a couple companies as an entrepreneur, sold a couple companies, one private equity, one Fortune 500, was a self-made millionaire in my early 30s, and also was chock full of arrogance and ignorance because I thought I knew everything. I had the Midas touch. I was, the technical term is a dick. I was a big old because I just thought I was like so freaking smart. And I think someone may have had a greater plan for me and I had to learn. So I started a third business as an angel investor. I was horrible at it. I didn't know the space, and arrogance and ignorance is truly deadly. And I blew all my wealth in these startups, just going, hey, let's make money rain, start a business. I'm here. We're going to be successful. Well, all the businesses collapsed. I burned through the cash in 2 years. And then the turning moment presented itself. I came home to my wife. I have 3 children. Came home to my children and had received a call from my accountant. It was Valentine's Day that morning saying, Mike, we're finishing your corporate tax returns and your personal stuff. You don't have much going on. I never thought I'd say these words to you, but it's my professional opinion. You declare bankruptcy. And I didn't. I believe that the errors I had made were not the responsibility of my creditors. I'm the one who blew this money, not them. I had a responsibility. Even I didn't know who owns Visa or whatever. It's not their responsibility, in my opinion. And so I said, I'm going to dig my way out of it. But to do this, we would have to forego our house. We lost our house 30 days later. Our possessions, our cars. I remember my wife and I went car shopping. She was driving a Land Rover LR3. I had my Viper and my BMW, all gone, deservedly so. And we bought a rusty, beat up blue Dodge Durango. I think it was a 1998, like the second year of this model, this rust bucket. And this was in, 2008 when this happened. And that was our family ride. And I also had to, that day, go home to face my daughter. She was 9 years old at the time, and tell her I couldn't afford her horseback riding lessons, which, was like almost inconsequential. It was $20, I believe, for a group lesson every 2 weeks. Nothing. I couldn't afford it.
Mm.
As I was telling my daughter, she can't go to horseback riding lessons. She ran out of the room. I mean, like bolted. And it's weird how like your mind will slow down in certain events. And this became like super slow. I see her little legs just carrying her out. And my heart is dying that my daughter is so disgusted by me and the trauma I'd brought upon my family that she wanted to run away from me. And I respected that. It was painful. And ultimately became a wake-up call, not because she was running away. She actually ran to her bedroom as fast as she could go. And she came running down those steps, those little legs with her piggy bank. And she puts it down in front of me. She goes, Daddy, we'll be okay because I'll protect our family. Now I'm going to start crying. And I'm like, I felt like such a dirtbag that my 9-year-old daughter, who had been saving money to buy a horse one day, she had this piggy bank wrapped in duct tape and rubber bands, had never broken. It wasn't chipped at all. She never wanted a robber to come into the house and steal from her. And she's like, I'm going to sacrifice this, Daddy. Well, she didn't say those words, but I'm going to give this to you, Daddy, because we need it more. And I felt like such a scumbag. I felt so horrible. And that became the turning moment for me. Now, the interesting thing to kind of finalize the story, it wasn't like that second I said, I have to figure this out. I'm better than this. I actually went into depression for 2 years. I don't want to say the word struggled with depression because I had what I believe is the highest functioning form. It's called functional depression, self-diagnosed. I did not go through therapy. I regret that. I should have, couldn't afford it. Didn't have insurance. I went through functional depression, and how it manifested for me is I started to medicate through drinking. Like I do not, listen, I'll throw back. If someone wants to drink a margarita, like when we meet up or something, like I'm in, Ryan, like let's throw back a couple of drinks, but I'm not a boozer. Yeah. Except for this point in my life, I was now realized I was using it to medicate, just drink as much as I could until the pain was numbed of the thoughts, the horrible thoughts going through my mind. I also became an insomniac. In our little rental, I was sitting there watching TV, which we couldn't even afford cable. It was a antenna broadcast, which I don't know if you know this, they broadcast in high def, even over that antenna television. And I'm just sitting there watching infomercials at 3:00 in the morning, drinking. And it took time, and I found a strategy, but I started to get out of this. It instilled a belief that I was going to commit to a vocation that was of service to others, and that would also serve my own challenges. And the fundamental issue that kept on coming to my mind is I thought I knew entrepreneurship. I didn't. I need to simplify this for myself. I don't understand financial management. I don't understand business efficiency. I don't. I said I did. I don't. And I devoted myself at that point, and more every day now, to resolving the challenges of small business entrepreneurship, to make entrepreneurship simple. And so I write books, honestly, mostly to fix my own F-ups. And I hope that other people can avoid or resolve the challenges that they're facing as a result too.
Man, that's so good. I'm not sure if I've ever teared up on an episode before. We're like,
oh, did you tear up on that?
I did, man.
Sorry.
It resonates. I mean, it's I've got kids too, and
yeah,
I can't talk about this for a long time because then you will see something roll down.
Go for it. Barbara Walters wants to hear.
But it is powerful. I think, having owned a business for 15 years, over a decade, it's like there is an assumption after 5 years, after 3 years, whatever, there's an assumption that people have, at least what I believed for a long time, is that, if you have a quote unquote successful business, there's an expectation that you are a business person, right? You're a business owner. So you know things, you know how to run a business. I didn't know how to run a business. 15 years in, I'm still trying to figure out how to run this stinking business. And we hit rock bottom multiple times.
Yeah.
And it's like, I hearing your story, it makes my heart sad and hurt for the person that's listening, that feels like they have to have all the answers, that feels like they should be a financial expert, and they should be able to read a profit and loss statement, and they should know what to do when the bank account is at zero or negative. And that's not the case. So even as you're sharing, I was like, man, there is a lot more people out there that probably are in a financial, struggling financially and, gripping tightly to whatever it is that they know or think that they know, and feel bad, feel sad, feel depressed,
Yeah.
not sure where to turn. So even as you were talking, I'm curious, if you can speak to that person that's kind of in that spot that needs advice, that might be in some sort of financial trouble.
Yeah. So for you, that person, the first thing I want you to know is you're not alone. I felt that way. I thought I was the only person on this planet that could be so foolish,
Mm-hmm.
struggle so much. And what I found, and I don't know, Ryan, if this statistic is factual, but it resonates. I heard a statistic that 83% of small business owners are in check-to-check survival. And check-to-check survival for me is stress and panic about where am I going to get money. There's a constriction in my chest. It feels like I'm having a perpetual heart attack. I don't sleep at night, constant racing thoughts. I go to bed with anxiety and I wake up with it. And I believe that's the vast majority of small business owners. I will tell you this. First of all, if you're experiencing that, there's a term for that. It's called being a human being. Like I want you to know you are not alone and that you are totally 100% normal and perfect as you are, which is a massive advantage. The goal is not to do the things you don't want to do or are incapable of. I can't tell you, Ryan, how many people say, I can't even look at the accounting. I suck at math. Maybe you do suck at math. And maybe you can't do the accounting. But here's a beautiful thing. That option is just not your solution. There's many options. And just because you hear that you got to do it this way, does not mean the way you need to do it. I think it was Einstein who said, if we measure a fish by its ability to swim and a monkey by its ability to climb, they'll both do well. But if we measure a monkey's ability to breathe underwater and a fish to climb trees, they're not going to do so well. We need to appreciate and realize who we naturally are, and then establish systems around us that channel our behavior. So you're not alone. You aren't the first, and it's very, very fixable. The way not to fix it is by trying to breathe underwater. You're not designed for that. We got to find a solution. And I'm not saying Profit First is the solution for everyone with financial struggles, but I do find it's a solution for people who naturally revert to certain tendencies. Mm-hmm. So if you're the type of person who, instead of reading the income statement and cash flow statement and balance sheet and tying it to KPIs and budgets and all that stuff, if you don't even know what that means, that's totally cool because you're like me then. If you're the type of person that reverts to what I call bank balance accounting, log into my bank account, see if I have money. If I do, I know I can spend some. If I don't, I panic and soil myself. If you're that person, that's what I designed Profit First for, because that's your natural tendency to climb trees. And Profit First then is a climbing the tree strategy. It complements your natural strengths. The beautiful thing, and I gotta be cautious of this. This may sound braggadocious. To me, this is the ultimate honor I've received. We are aware of, as an estimate, and it's a pessimistic estimate, over 150,000 businesses that have now implemented Profit First. We had 3,000 case studies documented about this. And what we found is the vast majority of small business owners, and small, by the way, defined by the SBA, is if you do $25 million in revenue or less. Well, that's my company for sure. I suspect, Ryan, it's possibly your company. Probably everyone remote. Yeah, that's your. Okay, so that's us. Like that's us. And the study said 83% of small businesses are in check-to-check survival. That doesn't mean 83% of businesses are not fit to be in business. That means 83% of business owners don't breathe underwater. They don't run the business by traditional accounting methods. They need a different system. And that's what Profit First is. And the last thing I want to share is this is not a either or. If you do Profit First, you're not abandoning accounting. It is simply a cash management system that actually complements accounting, but you no longer have to put your mind space there. You simply focus on doing what you've always done, log into that bank account. We do a few system changes so it can work with your natural behavior and then drive those results you want, which is permanent profitability, paying yourself how you deserve to be paid, never worrying about taxes again, and running the business off what it truly can run off of.
Yeah, you say that, never worrying about taxes again. I feel like that, if nothing else gets somebody's attention, that's like, oh, I want to.
Have you are you using Profit First?
So after I read the book, I bought a copy for our accountant and I sent it to her. She's worked with us for a number of years.
Yeah.
Really wanted to get her take on it before I said, like, let's do this. And and so she welcomed it, and she said, her response to me was like, hey, we're actually kind of trying to do some of this stuff already. But this really does, it puts in a lot better way for somebody like you, Ryan, to be able to understand this. And I said, great, cool. Like, let's keep trucking forward with it. So
kudos to her. It's interesting. So, well, we found out as this rolls out that there is 3 responses. You've had the, we're willing to do what you want to do response. That is sadly a small portion.
Yeah.
We've had another even smaller portion that says, this is perfect for you. We're all in and supporting it. And we have the majority of accountants say, this is not how accounting works. You can't do this. This is a waste of time. And then they build the logic behind it, saying the fees you'll incur, the time just to reconcile bank accounts and stuff. And I just want to contest that. First of all, I want to support why I believe accountants and bookkeepers may resist it, is because they've been trained. They went to school for accounting, and accounting has been defined very specifically. They know the rules. I'm simply saying we're playing a different game. We're not saying your rules don't work. We're just going to play a different game that works with our mindset. And it's hard for them to see the gap when you're trained a certain way so many times over and you feel something may conflict with it. It's actually a compliment to it. Mm-hmm. The other thing is when it comes to some of the arguments of like, oh, the time for reconciliations. Well, again, we have 3,000 document case studies. Reconciliations typically go faster. This is the clearing up the books because money is now pre-categorized. Money comes out of the tax account was used likely for taxes. So you're much quicker in the categories you need to be in to reconcile and identify the flow of cash. And then when it comes to bank fees and so forth, it's interesting. We've worked with so many banks now. Banks are vendors. Like their job is to be a vendor to us. They're not government. And I think some people confuse that. They're not the big brother of the world. So when they say, if you're going to do banking with us, you have to pay these fees, you have the right to say, screw you. I don't want to pay fees. So either if you want to keep my business bank, you got to get rid of those fees or change the structure here so it supports me, or I'll find someone else. They're a business too. And when we realize that, I think it really empowers us. The interesting thing too is when accountants embrace this, we've had enough studies now with accountants. We have a membership organization with accountants and bookkeepers. We look at a set of clients that they work with pre-profit first and post-profit first. And we find out, sure enough, that 83% number seems to be true. If you ask your accountant saying, without sharing names, how many of your clients are sustainably profitable? How many of them have quarterly profit distributions? How many of them have above a 5% profit distribution at the end of every year? Below 5% is considered a break even because that's a negligible number. And what we find is almost all small businesses, sure enough, most businesses that accountants serve are not profitable. So then we just go to these accountants and say, listen, what you're doing, I know you believe in, but it's only working for a few people. Why don't you try this new system? And people implement the system. It literally reverts. About 80% of the businesses become permanently profitable. 20% of businesses, the system doesn't even work for them. They have such systemic issues with their business that it can't be resolved. But the 80% are resolved. And I would argue for the person right now is watching saying, I'm struggling with cash, implementing this. I suspect your business actually is a sound business. You're just not using a system that complements your behavior. We implement profit first. Your business continues to run as it always has run, but now we're going to be having a system that's extracting profit perpetually. You'll become permanently profitable.
I love it. Can you shed some light on the profit first way? Like, for anybody who hasn't read the book, just kind of give us an idea of like, what does that actually look like? Like, what are some of the big changes and or outcomes?
Yeah, that's a good question. So
maybe earlier, but
maybe we should start with that one. Now think about it. But the traditional accounting, as I referred to earlier, we're told that profit comes last. Sales minus expenses equals profit. And you now already know the problem. When something comes last, it means it's not significant in the moment. It can wait. That's the problem. Well, we flip the formula. It's sales minus profit equals expenses, which if you're familiar with some math theorem, we did what's called a variable swap. Mathematically, it's actually the identical formula. So there's no impact on the logic, but there's a behavioral shift. What we're saying is every time a sale occurs, when money flows into your business, you're going to take a predetermined percentage of that money, allocate it toward profit, a literal account, store the money away, and the remaining cash is going to be available to run your business. It's the pay yourself first principle simply applied to business. Now, I use other principles too, like the envelope system, if you've heard of that, this thing called loss aversion and other techniques. But the next component is like the envelope system. What you do is you go to your existing bank, assuming you do bank balance accounting, which means you go on your phone and log in once a month or once a week or maybe even daily to see what your bank balance is. If you do that, we're going to go to that bank that you use and we're going to set up multiple accounts equivalent to envelopes. One's going to be called the income account. We call these the 5 foundational, by the way. The income account. The second account is called the profit account. Third account is called owner's pay. Fourth is tax, and fifth is operating expenses. What happens in practice, money will flow into income, and income is only a depository account. You'll never pay a bill from there anymore. This will hold temporarily your collection of cash for that week or that month or however often you're going to allocate money. The money piles up, and just like a Thanksgiving dinner, you pull that turkey out of the oven, you don't say to your family and friends, hey, everyone, knife and fork, everyone for themselves, fight for it. People don't start stabbing in and cutting off pieces. What you do is you carve the turkey so you can apportion some of that meal to everyone at the table. That money in the income account is our cash turkey. We're going to carve it up and we're going to allocate it to the different plates at the table, which is the profit, owner's pay, and so forth. A portion goes to profit. We already talked about that. A predetermined percentage goes to profit, reserved for the reward of the shareholder. That's profit's intention. Next account is called owner's pay. Owner's pay is to pay the salary for what I'd argue the most important employee, which is the owner-operator, the person that owns a business and works within the business. Usually the most driven employee by far, has the most to sacrifice or lose, can sell more than anyone else, can operate the business better than anyone else, typically is the owner. We're going to reserve money to pay you the salary. Your salary is to support your lifestyle. Profit is a celebratory account that goes to the shareholder. Now, if you own your own business, you're both the shareholder and an owner-operator. Owner-operator, again, supports your lifestyle and income. The profit is a reward that's going to come out, usually on a quarterly basis, to reward you for taking the risk of starting that business in the first place. The fourth account is called tax. We talked about never worrying about taxes again. We're going to allocate a percentage of money to this account. And when your tax bill comes due, depending on the formation you have, it may be weekly or quarterly if you have an LLC or an LLP. But when the money goes to the tax account, your business will pay your taxes on your behalf. And this is true. Some accountants will say, hey, hold on. And you have a C Corp or S Corp, the business can't pay your taxes. That's not entirely true. You will have to have your taxes pulled out of payroll, but your business can do what's called a reimbursement distribution of money. So that actually pays your taxes after all by reimbursing you. So it's absolutely doable. Just talk with your accountant on the specificity of how to roll that money out. But your business will reserve the taxes. Then the final account is OpEx. This is the lifestyle of the business. And we allocate a percentage for that. And as an example, if $1,000 came into my business today, historically, if I only had my one account and I do my bank balance accounting, if $1,000 come in, I say, oh, I have $1,000 to spend. What do I need to spend it on? Which actually hurts our business because we revert to the urgent and immediate thing in front of us. Oh, I had to hire that employee. I got to make payroll. We need that equipment, whatever. And we revert to the imminent need. That's what the problem is with having one account. Once the money gets divided up, you'll see that the operating expense account may actually only have $400. So now you can't look at the imminent need and say I have $1,000. You say I have $400, and it forces your business to live off of what's truly available to operate the business. Because if you want to have that profit, if you want to pay yourself, if you never want to worry about taxes, the OpEx is what you have to do to make the rest a reality. We're reverse engineering our profitability.
Yeah, it's
I got a little jacked up on that. It's like,
yeah,
I almost came through the screen. I'm like, you get this?
I can smell your breath.
Yeah, I know. I just had a chicken parm sandwich. It's kind of like rolling through garlic and.
No, it just hearing it's like this just makes sense for me. For a long time, I've never we typically do Christmas bonuses at the end of the year, and it's typically it's kind of hard because we don't start thinking about it till
right the month before
November, and we've got bonuses next month, and it's typically the slowest time of the year for us. So how do we swing this again?
Yeah,
and even just hearing. If there was only one takeaway, and there are multiple takeaways with this system for us, but this idea of quarterly profit sharing, I'm like, this is, I needed to hear this because I never thought about, doing quarterly profit sharing. It's like, oh, duh. But you look at, what did we do the last 90 days? And the other thing that I've learned is that the more transparent we are, I'm a part of this group called Small Giants, and they, part of the Small Giants, I don't know, their foundation or beliefs or whatever is like open book management. Mm-hmm. And so we're not there yet, but we're definitely getting close. I mean, we're open book enough to where I've had to sit down with my employees a number of times and say, hey, money is super super tight right now. Like we don't have any, so don't spend any. And a few years ago, I had employees that left because they didn't feel secure, and that was fine. But I also had some employees that said, no, we're in it to win it. We are with you. Like, as long as we're getting paid, like, this is cool. And this idea of inviting employees, your team, into your finances really creates this, like, just a deeper sense of ownership and belonging. Even if they technically aren't an owner, they buy into the bigger vision and the bigger purpose. And I think we take for granted, like, what the power of something like this can do for, not just for ourselves to say, like, oh, finally I'm profitable and I can measure it and I know how much to pay myself, but also that kind of next level of, like, hey, if you have people that you want to be able to, invite them into this as well and do a profit sharing, this is the first way for me that it makes sense. It doesn't, like, add, like, all the stress of, like, where am I going to find the money? It's like, no. We're if we're profitable this quarter, you guys are going to get a piece of that. And so then for the team to say, like, oh shoot, what do we need to do to be more profitable? Oh, don't just, like, buy the most expensive lunch when we go out, or, just these little things that end up impacting you at the 90-day mark. It's like, oh, okay, we'll be a little bit smarter about how we're spending the company's money.
We do it here. So we do a quarterly profit distribution with employees. I got some funny stories about it, but I first want to share where the inception is. The healthiest financial companies in the world, typically blue chip stocks, public companies. I don't really like big business, but I respect the fact that they started off small. They've achieved that size. I don't want to have 100,000 employees. I would never dream of that. It just sounds like the biggest nightmare for me, because that's just not where my passion lies. But I respect it. The only way to achieve that size, to afford and manage payroll for 100,000 employees every week or two, is with absolute fiscal discipline. And the golden rule in financial discipline for those blue chip stock public companies is to pay a quarterly profit distribution. If you own public stock, chances are you're benefiting from a quarterly profit distribution, because the goal is to keep shareholders invested in the outcome, because shareholders wield the ultimate influence. They go to the votes, and they can influence the board and so forth. So you got to care for the shareholders. Let's take that lesson to our little businesses. Pay ourselves, keep the shareholder engaged, which is us. So quarterly profit distribution is important. But also, our employees can be shareholders. Now, not in a technical sense. You don't have to give them equity. I don't here at my office, but they share in profit. And they know the less we spend and the more we generate, the more we make, and the less we spend, the more we can take for the organization, the more profitability we have. And because they share in a portion of that, they're very motivated by it. So just two quick stories. When I travel for speaking engagements, many times the host of the event will say, we'll book your lodging for you and your hotel and your flight. And when they do, wherever the event is usually the hotel I'm staying at. So it's something posh and nice, and it's a beautiful experience. Sometimes the host says, we're going to pay you your speaking fee, but you're responsible for your flights and your lodging. And Kelsey, who manages my travel itinerary, my flights, will book it. And she knows if she puts me at a 3-star, that's the rule, it's got to be at least a 3-star. If she puts me at a 3-star, we can save maybe a couple $100 a night. And she realizes, well, that means she's making money for her. So I'm staying at the Hampton Inn or the Holiday Inn down the street. And I remember I went to this event in Phoenix, Arizona. This was 2 years ago. Beautiful event, tuxedos. It was a black tie event. And I get there. I do the opening kind of toast they wanted me to do. 200-300 people come up. And now they're winding down this party. And everyone's starting to go to their rooms. They're like, oh, Mike, are you going to stay for a little after party? I said, no, I got to get back to my room. And I said, oh, where are you? I'm like, oh, I'm at the Holiday Inn down the street. And people are like, what? And that's when I explained the importance of profitability. And they were like, oh, that's awesome, dude. So that's part of it. Really driving us home, one other little story. Today, about an hour ago, I had my lunch, which was a sandwich, which I shared with Kelsey, because the sandwich shop down the street serves big sandwiches. And it's very easy just to buy 2 sandwiches, but it's more profitable to share one sandwich since that'll satisfy both of us. So every day we kind of flip-flop back and forth, say, what sandwich do you want? You pick today and we'll split it. And that's how we do it. And it's become ingrained in our culture, not because we're cheap, but because it's really in the best interest of our physical health in that case,
Yeah.
but also the health of the organization. And it's fun. It's fun to find ways to get stretch dollars further and further as you get into the process of taking your profit first.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you, as an owner, it is freaking the best feeling giving your colleagues what they want, financially, what they truly deserve. There's nothing better than giving a quarterly profit distribution. There's nothing better. We actually had I'll just call it an emergency circumstance here, where a little bit of money could have helped the situation. And we were very much in the position to say, we're going to take care of this and take the burden off this person of worrying about it. And the relief it gave them, honestly, it's given me more joy. I think that gave them relief. Yeah. I think as owners, we're naturally givers. We want to give employment. We want to give our clients service. But the greatest giving is where we have financial freedom and the ability to give in the moment without having any worry about the financial stress.
That's super good. It just makes me feel guilty because Susie ate her big bowl of Chipotle and I ate my big bowl of Chipotle at lunch today. And
you could have been sharing with Susie.
Totally unrelated. Are you left-handed?
No, but I know I look like I am, right? Because I got a watch on this hand.
Yeah. Oh, man.
No, I play guitar. So to play guitar with a watch, it can start scratching it. So I just always wear hair.
I'm with you, man. I thought we were gonna have something else in common.
He's like, he's a southpaw. No, I'm a northpaw. That's what us right-handers call ourselves, northpaws.
Wrong paw.
Northpaw.
So I know you wanted to. We're getting close to wrapping up here, but I know I think one thing that's pretty relevant for you, more recent, is this idea of the importance of targeting specific communities for a business. And so, from a video business owner's perspective, how would you speak into that?
Yeah, so that's very important regardless of the business you have, but for video businesses, I think it's probably even that much more important because you have the opportunity, I believe, to be the elite provider for that community. Here's how I go about it. I look at my existing client list and say, what clients pay me the best? Because they're demonstrating through how much they pay me and how frequently they pay me. If they re-engage you, they're demonstrating they really value what you do. Secondly, of those that treat me the best, pay me well, repeat purchases, who of them do I like the most? Mm-hmm. And it's the intersection of those two that's often the starting point. I say, well, I really like working with Mike. He's an author guy and he pays me well and it's fun to work with. I'm not saying the entire author community is not a nice, great, fun community. But what I am saying is now you have an inroad because birds of a feather flock together. So once you identify who your true best customer is, care to them, take care of them, but also speak with them and say, listen, I want to serve you better. Tell me more about your community and gain access to it. They can be the gateway into tremendous opportunity. And it's funny, we just hired a video guy. He doesn't specialize in authors. He's a generalist. Mm-hmm. And it's a lot of uptraining on what I need for a sizzle reel for speaking. Mm-hmm. It's a lot of uptraining to do how to do a video with appropriate B-roll for a book promotion. And he's capable, but it's putting a lot of weight on me. I wish, now I probably get some emails, I wish I could have found someone that specializes specifically in authors. And actually, here's a little decree. I am even thinking now about hiring an in-house video person. So if anyone's saying, hey, I want to just go in-house and have a full-time job, video production, editing, and stuff like that, it's such the frontier of communication is no longer, it's audio now, it's going more and more video, as we all know. It's the biggest opportunity out there. And I want to be not on the very forefront, but I want to be toward the front edge of this movement and think that I got to bring video in-house. So I'm just saying, you guys are sitting, and gals, that's New Jersey talk for everyone, guys. You're sitting on the precipice of one of the greatest opportunities in the world. I think we're going to miss it if you don't specialize in a specific community that can benefit from it.
That's really good. Yeah, I was going to say, I saw your scissor reel on your site, and I was going to say, like, hey.
Oh, my God. Yeah, 1930. Yeah.
Hey, man, at least you got something. So we have to finish, but if there's one thing that somebody should do after our conversation today, what is it?
If you want to get a job as a video guy with me, email me, Mike at MikeMichalowicz.com. And I say that actually.
Finder's fee. I get a finder's fee.
Finder's fee. But it would be a job. I want to bring someone in-house. And but it's the coolest organization ever. And we're in New Jersey. Obviously. We're in New Jersey, the armpit of the nation. You can join me here. But if you want to learn more about my books, I have free chapter downloads, video content. I also, I used to write for the Wall Street Journal, so there's articles available. You can go to MikeMichalowicz.com, or, because it's hard to spell Michalowicz, you can go to MikeMotorbike.com. The cutesy thing about that was my nickname in high school. I've never driven a motorcycle. But if you go to mikemotorbike.com, it forwards you onto my website. All that stuff is available for free.
Awesome. Mike, this is super good. I'm so glad that we were able to do it. Really, really appreciate your story and just for the way that you're impacting so many stinking people. It's very inspiring, and just keep it up, man.
Dude, rock on, brother. I appreciate you doing this, Ryan.
For sure. Amazing. Okay, so go get the book, listen to it, read it, do whatever you need to do, but consume it. It will be good for your soul. We're in the middle of transitioning all of our stuff to Profit First. Slowly, it's a slow process for us, but my bookkeeper's read the book, and we are moving toward getting the multiple bank accounts and just the other stuff that he suggests doing. You can get all of the show notes at studiosherpas.com/125. And if you like this show or you like this episode, please share it. And listen to this. Look what just came in across my desk here. This is a testimonial. This is a podcast review from the Apple iTunes store. This comes from Callan52. Do you know Callan52? I don't, but I'm about to get to know Callan. Callan says, insanely inspirational. 5 stars. This is awesome. This is a good start here. It says, wow, I came across this podcast a couple days ago and I haven't listened to anything else. The knowledge that you bring to along with the guests is just incredible. Just having started offering services in videography, it can get overwhelming very fast. This podcast has given me a sense of confidence I've never had before. I'm currently a pipe welder by trade, but my passion is telling a story. With the knowledge that I've been receiving through this podcast is just driving me even more to put in the work more until it's my full-time dream. Thank you again. Yes, that's what I'm talking about. That is super fun. Callan52, I'm excited to hear more about your journey. And when you do start doing video full time, I just want you to tell me when that happens. That's exciting. So anyway, I'm going to be doing a live training. For those of you who don't know, we have a community of people who have invested time and money into what we call the Studio Sherpas community or the video business community. And we do these monthly calls where I answer questions or we have guests on and they talk about important things and people can ask questions and whatnot. I'm going to open the door to do one with you and anybody else that wants to join. So you can get more information if you go to this website. You're going to want to write this down or hit the button to go there. I don't know if there's a button that's letting you go there. The website URL is studiosherpas.com/register, and you'll just have to plug in your email to get notified when that will be. And I hope that you'll be on there. And then you should also get, once you register, you'll be able to submit any questions that you want me to cover while we do that Q&A in case you're late showing up or whatever, but it will give you an opportunity to get those questions to me. And that would be super fun. So next week, we've got Jody Mayberry on the show. He's a former park ranger. And if you know park rangers, they are storytellers. And he walks us through some really neat ways in how we can be using story to help our clients, not just with the videos that we're making for them, but in adding value to their lives. And I think you're going to love it. So take a listen to a sneak peek from next week's show.
Every business, there are some things that are similar. Whether you're a podcaster, whether you're a copywriter, whether you're in video, if you're a small business, there are some things that don't change. Mm-hmm. Now, details change, sure, but some of the things you need to look for, some of the things you need to do, those are going to be the same when you're making creative work. That will cover no matter what your actual niche is.
All right, from the bottom of my heart, thank you so much for listening to this episode. Sorry, did I get a little crazy and weird on this one? I never know because nobody's standing across from me to say like, dude, what are you saying? Why are you doing this? You've been weird for too many weeks in a row. Well, it just is the way it is, my friend. I love you. I appreciate you. And I hope to see and or hear from you soon. Let's make it happen, okay? That's it for now. Bye-bye.